Aho, aho, aho. Welcome back to church with Bo. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I know we've had a good month and some change off. I was about to get ready to start dropping bi-weekly episodes, tri-weekly episodes, and then everything started popping off. I mean, my life started popping off. I started having to spend more time on certain things I didn't expect to. And then out of nowhere, I mean, where do I even start? We started a war with Iran. America started a war with Iran, I mean, following in Israel behind some bull. Uh, the Epstein files have been getting slowly swept under a rug. The Hillary and Bill were questioned on their participation and involvement in the Epstein files. They lied. They lied more than anybody I would imagine could. On I don't know him. No, I didn't know. Bill got shown that picture of him, the painting of him in Monica Lewinsky's blue dress, being at the entryway to Epstein's house, and they asked him something like, "Did you know he had this painting at the front of his house? What could something like this mean, sir?" And he just smiles and he looks back and he says, "Well, if I knew he had this, then I wouldn't have been around the man. It would have saved me a lot of time. It would have saved me all this time here today." Beautiful. But even while they were showing him, his lawyers were showing him like the different pictures, and they're like flipping the files, like, "Here, check this one out." And he's like, Okay," but not just okay. He every one of them he would see, he'd look at it, he'd pause for a second, he'd smile, he'd like, oh, Jeffy, and then he looked back down, like, "Okay, what's next?" Oh, all right, all right. It was incredible, incredible. Well, I mean, even just watching Hillary's testimony on that, you could tell by how she's speaking that, like, she is so past this ever coming to light and people ever actually believing any of the things that they've seen, that once she does, if she ever does get, you know, held accountable for any of the terrible things she's done, that, like, she's just gonna ride the wave of denying it to the death till the death. She's gonna be like, "This is crazy. I can't believe you would believe those people. I can't believe people really believe that me and Bill were doing something like that. I can't believe that you guys really think it's not just coincidence that so many people so close to us end up committing suicide or dying in strange ways." Yeah, it's a crazy, messed up world in a lot of ways. It's a beautiful world. It's a beautiful life. 100%. I believe that. But there is also an insane amount of insanity in here. Like, the world is just as insane as it is beautiful. And, regular people like us, we enjoy a good book. We enjoy simple activities and, getting really good at things or really informed and interested in things that pique our curiosities and are our highest excitements. Oh, there's some people I would imagine like Bill and Hill, who also follow their highest excitements, and their highest excitements happen to be making Ormus. Ormus, the drink that's kind of like, what's it called? Kind of like adrenochrome, but, not for the poor. Adrenochrome is like the poor trailer trash version. of Ormus. Ormus is supposed to be like a golden nectar of the gods that when consumed, you basically become exhumed in the power of the gods. On top of a bunch of terrible, torture and ritual magic and sexy magic and all sorts of crazy shit. It's a way of life, it's a way of strife, but people are living it. And I am just as much, to blame as anybody else for getting caught up in my own life, and especially as, younger. I would never even have imagined that anybody in power, even, young in my younger years, I would often think about like, what is like the lives of people who are like born into like multi-generational wealth families where like Anderson Cooper, he was born in like the railroad tycoon Vanderbilt family. And like by the time he was born, his family had probably, hundreds, if not thousands of properties and real estate and all this crazy shit. I imagine what could their lives be like, after many generations of like this guy got the money and then his kids were born and they did the where could that even lead to? And for the longest time, probably till I was at least 18, 20, I didn't think that it could get this bad. I didn't think it was gonna be they're eating the babies, they're having giant elaborate Christmas parties that end in ritual sacrifices and everybody having to get hosed off and like change their clothes so they can leave clean, whatever that means to them. You know, I just I just never thought people were really capable of that kind of evil deep down, even after generations of being bored and, you know, caught up in whatever. But I guess I just wasn't raised like that, you know? I guess what's normal to some is, I don't know, Farquad Lord to others, you know? But yeah, it's been a very eventful month and a half or so. After we got Maduro, he's been swept under the rug. Maduro is literally in jail right now with Luigi Mangione and Takashi 69. I saw Takashi was on stream with a bunch of streamers and he went down. He said he was going in for some like IRS tax stuff and he was like he's got to do 3 months, and since he got locked up, people have called him. Aiden and Steve will do it. Different streamers have been checking in on him, and he's like, "Yeah, no, I forget. He didn't get the cell with Maduro. I think he is in a cell with Luigi. Yeah, I think he might be sharing a cell with Luigi or somebody. But I'm pretty positive he said he didn't get Maduro. He was hoping to get Maduro as his cellmate so he could chat it up and be like, "Man, what's really going on? Was that all like set up already? Did they just have a different plan and want you out so they could put their people in or what?" And I'm pretty sure he also didn't get Diddy, but Diddy is also in the same jail. And they're having a great time, I'm sure. Since we swept Maduro under the rug, though, it's been I don't even know how the Iran thing came to be. I mean, I guess it's been building up, we had Operation Midnight Climax or whatever last year, where The president, I'm pretty sure, also still on behalf of Israel, bombed a bunch of nuclear facilities in Iran because they were supposedly enriching weapons grade uranium again, like all these Middle Eastern bloc countries get used to doing. It seems like since Iraq and Afghanistan and all that, Middle Eastern bloc countries will just out of nowhere decide that they're enriching weapons grade uranium, and pretty soon we've got presidents and prime ministers coming on the news talking about they're a week away. They're as close as a few seconds away from pouring a chemical in a beaker into another beaker and a chemical reaction happening in which they've enriched weapons grade uranium, and all they have to do then is strap it onto a rocket and they've got a nuclear weapon. We have to stop this. We can't. If they get a nuclear weapon, they're going to bomb everybody, you know? And I imagine it's usually Israel, and they're, rightfully scared that these countries are going to come and maybe even try to sneak a nuke in the middle of the night, do a cluster bombing where they jam the signals of the interceptors, and in the middle of the cluster, a second behind the cluster, they just sneak a snook in his sniz. And next thing you know, they've gotten back at them for years and potentially centuries of oppression and malfeasance. I don't know. Regardless, it's been a very, very interesting couple of weeks. I mean, we got into Iran. The president said that he had to do it because he had gotten information that Israel was going to attack Iran, and if Israel attacked Iran, they were going to attack us or our bases in the Middle East in retaliation to what was happening in Iran. So we had to get in there first. I guess it didn't stop any of the what? We couldn't just up our defenses, our security or something and maintain a neutral position? No, we had to attack them because we knew our bases were gonna get attacked, and they did in the following days and weeks. But I don't understand how that fighting a fire with fire is helping anything. I think we should have maximized our defenses. If I was a great general, I would say we should have maximized our defenses and just gone all in on being able to deflect and intercept these rockets as good as possible, so then we could help, maybe our countries, our allies in the Gulf, to potentially not get their oil refineries or desalination plants and whatever else has gotten bombed. I don't know. I honestly have no idea how they think this is going to work out for the best. I really have no idea what winning in a situation like this would look like. And I don't know. I am against it. I don't believe anything I'm seeing in the news. I don't believe there's Iranians actually happy about this, not Iranians in Iran, you know? And I really don't believe uh, anything that I see in the American media, or I guess most media. The Israeli media will post some true things when it's like kind of beneficial to them, you know? They won't have a problem talking about it, but I heard that they've been suppressing a lot a lot of information from coming out and getting to us because they don't want it to appear that they're getting bombed harder than they're bombing Iran. And that Tel Aviv is potentially like what's the word for it? Under siege, like getting heavily bombed because they're supposed to have like this Iron Dome thing. It's supposed to protect us. It's supposed to be a magical defense system that, Yeshua is using to shield us from the bombs of the infidels or whatever they call them, the goy. The goy lasers will not penetrate Yeshua's Iron Dome. Things like that. Israel also attacked Lebanon, in the middle of all the Iran stuff going on. They figured we could just sneak into Lebanon real quick right now, try to take some land, try to do some, hit a little one time, and nobody will be on our asses about it. Which is true, when they were trying to sneak into Lebanon during Gaza, all eyes were on them so heavily that as soon as they made a move in any direction towards the Iranian border, trying to sneak some land or whatever, people were on them. It was all over the news, all over X. People were saying, hey, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're in Lebanon, they're taking over these places. So it made it a lot harder for their covert tactics to stay covert, understandably. You know, my grandma in Romania used to tell me about how it was during the war when the Americans were bombing us, and how everybody in our town, which was mostly a village at that point, would have to close their blinds. Everybody would have to close their blinds, lock all the doors and windows, close everything, turn off all the lights, and then hide underneath the house or underneath something. I think they had some sort of like shed in the yard that there was like an under area to that they would like all sneak under there because it wasn't the house. If they bomb the house, hopefully they don't bomb the shed too. And if the house blows up, we're under the shed, and at least we're not going to get killed. Yep. And they would know it was time because there would be air raid sirens going off all around Romania. And when their air raid sirens would get loud and close enough, it's time to turn everything off and hide. I think when the sirens stop, it means like it's good. Everybody can clear back in. Just had a crazy thought. I'm wondering if there was for sure, there had to be at least some people in Romania at the time when they would hear the air raid sirens and they would just be like, man, fuck you. Fuck the Americans. Fuck the government. Fuck all this shit. Ain't no way. Ain't no way that I'm about to believe some shit like that. You think the Americans are bombing us? They're gonna, yeah, no, I've seen the planes. I just don't think it's gonna happen. And if it does happen, it happens. There's a lot of Romanians like that. If it happens, it happens. Like, I'm gonna live my life to my highest excitement, regardless. Very big on following their excitement, these Romanians, I promise you. Their highest excitement. So I know there was at least a couple people who partied and lived like ballers even during the air raids. Like, yeah, my neighbors are all fucking bunkering down underneath their sheds. Everybody's got all the lights off. They're all just scared and shaking. I don't care. I've got a drink poured. I got 19, what is it, 40s, 1930s TV going, bro. We had TV for a week. You think I'm not playing I got the TV and the radio going. I'm making drinks. Lights are on. I'm not using a candle. It's the 1900s. Come on. If I die, I die. It's the sign of the times, and I guarantee you there was at least a couple people who were doing that during the air raids who lived and still tell their tales. I don't know if to this day, my grandma hasn't made it to 2026, so I don't know how many of that generation did and, are around to still brag about it, but I would love to hear from them. If your grandpa is one of those people, maybe in another country, wherever in Europe, they survived the war and they have some cool stories like that, uh, tap in with me. Hit me on Instagram at Bahabo, Bajabo, no anything else. And let's get them on here. Even if nobody listens to it, I would love to have that conversation just for myself, for my own data banks. But yeah, it's been an interesting month and a half more. Uh, Trying to think of anything else going on besides Iran, and I haven't really heard many updates from the Ukraine war. Seems like, towards the start of last year, the Ukraine war was like, oh, this is priority number one. We're gonna get it shut down. Everybody's paying attention. And, the more time has gone on, the more people seem to just be backing away from it. Like even the US is like giving less money to Ukraine because they realize they're giving the most, and all of the European Union combined isn't matching what the US is donating alone. So why are we, fueling this corruption machine when we don't have to? When we literally don't have anything to do with it. So, I don't know. That seems like that one's going to be going on for a while, or until Putin decides to, I guess, press heavily for some kind of treaty or demilitarized zone. It might end like North and South Korea. They might just have a 1,000-mile long electrified fence border where they just keep everything, guards on post at every 30 feet or whatever for the entire border. More so just to make sure that one side doesn't start like encroaching on the other side's land and pushing the borders little by little. It's a game of inches. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Pretty soon they've taken your whole country. So I imagine it could be that type of situation. Nobody would really care to be jumping in and out like North and South Korea, nobody's going to be sneaking in and out. And it's not like North and South Korea. There's a lot of countries all around both of these countries to where if you really wanted to, you could get around and into the other one, you know. It's not that type of situation, but I think it could end in a DMZ style. And I'm not opposed to that. I'm just saying stop the killing. Stop the war. War is a racket. Smedley Butler. Great book. Check it out. Thank me later. And I don't understand how we haven't seen through and past all these war minded criminals, really. This plot. Like, it happens every time. They try to get us in a war. They lie about why they're getting us into a war. They lie about everything surrounding the war, before the war, after the war. It ends up benefiting like the rich elites and people who have businesses that can make money off of war and being in war, and those people make out like bandits richer than everybody else in the world after these wars. And within a few years of peace, whatever that means, if it's ever even actually peace, these people start seeing their yearly income go down, and it has no bearing on their life. It literally does. It will not change like the brand of orange juice that some war oligarch is drinking in the morning. He's not going to have to go to Minute Maid from Simply Orange. You know what I mean? It's not affecting anything at the end of the day. They're still rich enough to literally do anything they want for the rest of their lives and never have to worry about it. And probably for multi-generational wealth. And they just don't feel right. It doesn't feel good. Their beliefs are hardened. Their heart is calloused by the fact that they're not winning as hard as they could be at the expense of others. So these oligarchs will come to a point where they stop caring. We've let them have their peace. They've bred and, they've replenished the population enough and forgotten about what it's like to be in war enough. Let's send them back in. Like, we don't give a fuck. So hopefully they don't give a fuck and they can go back in there and make us some more money. For these war profiteers, death is a bonus. It's a free bonus because the younger you die, the less they have to cover for you on the back end, the less insurance and government money goes into your being. So it's really just a terrible, terrible situation on that end. I think we should get out of the wars. I think we should end the wars and not be a police force for the world, but more so a force for not having any wars in the world, a force for figuring things out academically and being, some of like the lead people pushing that violence and force is not the main way to handle business or anything really. I mean, I don't understand. It's like people have not learned since caveman times. They're like, oh, ugh, ugh, big ugh, so we all ugh, ugh with ugh. No, we can all get together and kill Ugg if we have to. We could just beat him to fucking retardation. And then he's just, oh, he can't even say his own name no more, but he'll be fine. He's not doing killing anymore. And we can now defend ourselves and each other as a group after being emboldened by what we've seen we are capable of and create a healthy society where we can talk things out. We can figure out, oh, why is this better than that? Why is that not? Oh no, my plan's got to go. My plan's got to be the one that happens, or else what? Or else you'll find out. Or else we're gonna bomb this whole area for, that needs to go. If the aliens are real, and I believe they are, they need to come and help us figure out a way around war because I never really saw the world finding its way out of wars or around the profiteering of war. But now that we see robots being deployed, there have been actual android robots. I believe it was called the MK1 by Foundation Robotics out of San Francisco, deployed in Ukraine. A war robot being battle tested on the front lines. And they plan to have, I think it said 50,000 by 2027. And this is one company. Imagine just 5, 10 companies. If they each have 50,000, that's 500,000 war robots. And next thing you know, it's War of the Worlds, World War Z. Look, I'm not saying it's the end of the world. I honestly believe in hope, and I believe that we will figure it out, that with AI and all of these advanced technologies converging, we're figuring out slowly but surely that you have to be honest, you have to train these things right and on good principles and values. And I think through time, all of these things will converge to us having a more stable, more productive, more cohesive, more loving community, society, and civilization for all. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'll see you guys next week. Love you. Good night.